And we welcome into the Open Alliance show team number 8728, Argonauts, who have already been on. There's our rookie team from the Open Alliance, and we're excited to speak more with them and see their progress so far. And we have Nathan on from the Argonauts. And do you mind just telling us once again what you do on the team? And we'll talk about some of your progress as you've gone through the build season.
Yeah, I'm Nathan. I'm the engineering vice president of the team. And yeah.
Very cool. So, we have a PowerPoint we'll show with a lot of media, and we'll talk about that stuff in a little bit. But just give us a general, quick elevator rundown of what your team's been working on and where your progress is at. Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now is supported by Stryker Careers. If you are a college student or recent graduate looking for an incredible internship, take a look at Stryker. Stryker provides a housing stipend, great pay, and an opportunity to work with state-of-the-art medical technology equipment. Discover why so many First alumni are coming to Stryker for their internship or career at careers.stryker.com. First Updates Now is supported by Kettering University. Over 1/3 of Kettering's current students are former robotics team members. Go pro at Kettering University and get a free t-shirt. Students in grades 8 through 12 and located in the continental U.S. scan the QR code and complete the form by the date on screen and receive more information about Kettering.
Yeah, so right now we have most of our subsystems fabricated, and we're ready to put them on the robot. Our chassis is mostly done. We have to find a place for electronics. Our intake is done. It's right here. And that also just needs to be mounted. Shooter right now is being machined as we speak. And then shooter tower is also done right over there. So yeah, primarily it's mostly programming. Programming I would like to say is like 50% done. Obviously we haven't had any time to test it. But yeah, our first 3 weeks was kind of just like prototyping. As a rookie team, we don't have too many resources to prototype, so we had to buy a lot of material, which took time to come in. But yeah, and you can see right here, this is our chassis. We decided to go with the custom drivetrain, 13.18 feet per second and 10.27 to 1 gear ratio. So yeah, we got 4 Coltons and 2 Omnis. And yeah, our bumpers on the chassis is almost done. Just waiting on or working on the fabric.
Well, we'll start going into each individual subsystems we go through. I'll ask you with your chassis. You mentioned your speed on that. What made you choose that gear ratio or that specific speed you were looking at? How did that accomplish an objective maybe you set out for your team?
Yeah, so this field is relatively open compared to other fields. So we want to be fast, but not too fast, right? So we still want to have control. And we looked at years kind of like 2020, which kind of has a similar field setup. And yeah, that was kind of the main session, kind of with a medium speed.
Sure. Well, let's hop in and bring up a couple more media slides on here. Talk to us about a little bit more on what your team's been working on and some of the different assemblies as they go through.
Yeah, so this is our shooter tower. So our tower is pretty much done. We're using versa rollers. And yeah, we welded 1 by 1 as kind of the structural frame of the tower. And this was this is inspired from our prototype. Our prototype was basically just a box, and we had a wheel and a simple hood. And yeah, this is kind of like that. We were planning to put a limelight, but that limelight will go onto our shooter itself.
So originally you're looking at, just so I understand, you were looking at putting the limelight on the tower originally, but it's going to go on the shooter?
No, we were always going to put on the shooter.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
if the angles don't work out, we can put on we have a lot of options. And yeah, right here you can see the shooter onto the index or tower. So this is a single flywheel powered by 1 Falcon. And right now we don't have our adjustable hood. That's still being designed. But we're going with a rack and pinion, and we'll just 3D print that. We're trying to put a lot of metal in the kind of where the hood is. So all of the force that the ball pushes onto the hood is absorbed by that metal instead of the plastic. And yeah.
So let me ask you on your shooter. So you said you're going to power your flywheel with a single Falcon. Are you looking at shooting up close then, just to give you a refresh? Because I would think there'd be a little bit more spin up time depending on what your gear ratio is or whatever is going into that. Because 1 Falcon, in my experience, at least from what I've seen from other teams, many teams tend to use a little bit more power than that.
Yeah, so on our prototype, we were able to shoot just fine from the fender right at the hub. with one Falcon. And we do have the holes like drilled out or like made into the sheet metal if we decide to use more power. So
Sure.
we have that option. Right now, our strategy is to go for fender shots, and hopefully by like our week 4 competition, we'll be able to go for long distance shots.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's a great strategy of building for your first event, putting a little bit of excess into the design so that like, hey, this is the trajectory we might be on for the rest of the season, whether it's adding another motor to your shooter or adding a mobile hood, or some people try to add turrets later. I think like those type of steps, especially in the age of no bag, which you guys are rookies, right? But in the age of continue working on your robot, the evolution, I think, is something that maybe not enough teams take advantage of.
I agree.
Yeah. So we want our robot to be as modular as possible. So yeah, we are looking into creating like an upgrade package for the shooter. So that includes a turret, 180-degree turret. And then like we'll talk about this later, but for the climber, adding more functionality and making it more like robust and yeah. So right here for a climber, it's basically the Andy Mark climber in a box. Right now we have the hooks done right here and the attached to 1x1. We are still working on this. This is kind of our last priority because we want to have an intake and a shooter ready to go for week 2. But yeah.
Can you put those back up on screen again so we can see those?
Yeah, right here. Just the Andy Mark ones.
Yeah. So there's no modifications to that as of right now?
Not that I know of. No.
All right. So we'll keep next up. We'll be talking about on your bot is from, you mentioned you've done a little bit of programming on it. What are you looking at doing in like autonomous for your routine or multiple routines?
Yeah. So at the moment, we have our drive code pretty much done, and the shooter and intake code ready to go. Autonomous wise, we haven't like gotten too much into that, especially with like autonomous strategy. We talked about it a little, but if we're able to shoot our balls and then intake another, that's kind of the priority right now. If not by week 2, if we don't get if the programmers don't get enough testing, which happens a lot, right? But yeah, so hopefully by week 4 we'll be able to implement that.
How is the rest of your team? I know you're not a rookie yourself, but you have plenty of teammates that are rookies on your team. How has their experience been going through Rapid Rec so far? What have you seen amongst them in regards to how they're tackling the game, or even maybe their growth as they start to get more seasoned in what this program is?
Yeah, so this is the first year in the shop, so everyone's like, even I am still getting used to like the layout. So we aren't as fast or efficient, but our rookies are like doing very well. They're picking up everything very quickly, especially the ones in hands-on electrical. Yeah, we are able to like say like, hey, we need to get this machined out. But yeah, we're really happy with them. We're proud too, so it's looking good.
Yeah, is there anything that you went into this season thinking about, and now at the end of your season, you've either changed your mind on it or wish you had done something differently? Is there any, I remember talking to you, I think it was like the first or second week, where it was like, hey, I'm a rookie team, you're gonna make a custom chassis, you're gonna do all this really crazy stuff. Like how do you feel about your process and the decisions that you've made up to this point?
Yeah, so making a custom chassis was pretty difficult. That took a long time for not only like the CAD to be done, but like assembling the gearboxes. As a lot of us like have done Swerve before, right? And those are basically like machined by like we got the MK4 ones. But yeah, so doing a custom chassis was pretty difficult. But I think it was worth it because we learned a lot about our robot and like the amount of power we can really put on a robot. We decided at the beginning of the season not to use pneumatics. We were like, let's see. I don't think we decided like maybe we won't need it. We can actuate the intake using like a motor. We can use a rack and pinion for the hood, and we can try to skip pneumatics for the climber. But then I think like week 3, week 4, like internal discussion started about like, wait, maybe we should use the pneumatics for the intake actuator. And yeah, slowly we were like, okay, yeah, I think it's a good idea. And I wish we were a little fast on that because now it's like, how do we incorporate it into the design now? And yeah.
Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but it looks like you have a couple assembled components behind you. Is there any way we could bring some of those on camera and check more of those out in person?
Yeah. So here is our shooter tower. So right here you can see like the welds of the frame. We just went with 1x1 box tubing. We are still doing these belts, the Vextro belts. This was like our first one, so the weld isn't as good. But yeah.
And have you tried putting like a piece of cargo through that so far? Like, is that belt able to grip for you and that sort of thing, the way you're looking at doing it?
Yeah, so we still have to add the belt cord, but we think it seems like there's enough, and we are able to extend this if we need to, but it works out for us. This might be a better angle. But yeah. And then I can talk about our intake, which is right over. So at the moment, these are just like, so we have a Neo 550 powering this. But yeah, so we have vectoring wheels, the 3D printed ones, and then flex wheels from West Coast Products. And then we're just using polycarb as the mounting plates. Right now we have wood as the kind of like the mounting for the chassis. We're switching to 2x VersaFrame for like the main robot, but this was to test on our kit of parts chassis to make sure everything was okay. But yeah.
So on the intake there, sorry, you have a couple spots where you have the vectored intake wheels, and then you go over to more of a compliant-based wheel. Can you just talk to me a little about the decision to have the vectored intake wheels over on the side there? Like what difference would that be having that versus like other compliant wheels or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the vectoring wheels aren't like completely finished. We still have to put them in the right location. But we decided to use vectoring wheels because we can like translate the ball to the middle of our robot quicker. And just like for our drivers, it's just more convenient. Yeah, we saw a lot of teams in 2020 use vectoring wheels, and those balls were a lot different, right? They're a lot more squishy. But we used pool noodles as our prototype, and like it worked, but we wanted more functionality with our intake.
Cool. Yeah, and so putting those vectoring wheels on the outside brings it to the middle. So the idea is that that's kind of like you're trying to get the dead zone, right? So it's like if you can't go or see it, you'll slide something off into the corner. I know that the edges of your intake are always kind of a challenging place if you don't hit it dead on with your driver.
Yeah.
Has your driver so I know you've been working on your custom chassis. Have you gotten it up and running yet with electronics and given I don't know who's driving on your team, but like has there been any drive practice that you've been able to do with that yet?
Not yet. So we're doing week 2, so we have a couple of more weeks. But we have the motor spinning, right? We're connecting the chain right now. And then we had like a test electronics to make sure like the gearbox was working and everything was working fine. So hopefully either by the end of today or the end of tomorrow, it should be running and we can like start kind of doing some driver practice here and there.
Well, from your robot, looking into, you said you compete week 2, right? So it's about 3 weeks away about that right now, right? So give me like the progression of what the next, what's next week going to look like? What's the week after that? What's kind of the priority list for your team over the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, so really we want to finish the shooter tower and put it on the robot and then get our shooter mounted, which the shooter should only take like a day, or less than a day to assemble. Then mount our intake onto the chassis as we're like right now we're creating like structural pieces for the chassis for it to easily mount onto. And then hopefully by the end of this week, our programming team will have hands-on with the chassis and we'll be able to kind of go through autonomous and tell you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got really great progress, and I know with a few weeks left, you're going to have a lot of work to do. And but we really appreciate you coming on and showing off what your team's been able to do. And we're looking forward to seeing how you fare at your first event.
Thank you.
Thanks to Kettering University for their support of this video. Over 1/3 of Kettering's current students are former robotics team members. Go pro at Kettering University and get a free t-shirt. Students in grades 8 through 12 and located in the continental US, scan the QR code and complete the form by the date on screen and receive more information about Kettering. Thanks to Stryker Careers for their support in this video. First alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in First are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.